Thanks for stopping by the Junction, where we're trying to make connections between Ardmorites. I'm Ardmore Leader News Director Michael Dean Smith. The Plainview Public Schools Board of Education is asking district voters to approve two bond proposals totaling $42 million for school upgrades and vehicle purchases. Here to talk about this proposal package and what it means for voters ahead of the local election day on Tuesday, April 7th, is the Superintendent of Plainview Public Schools, Mr. Karl Stricker. Karl, thanks for joining me in the Junction this week.
Thank you for having us.
So for my first question, and to kind of kick this conversation off, I really just want to learn a little bit about the current state of campuses across the district, especially for somebody that maybe went to Plainview schools years ago, but kind of hasn't been back since. So just kind of briefly, how are the various sites across the district holding up? And where are some things starting to kind of show signs of their age or kind of showing signs of capacity?
Well, capacity's been the big issue over the last several years. We've had, on average, about a growth of 20 or about a classroom a year for about the last 10 years plus. So what we did is originally, when we recognized that we're going to grow at the elementary, we tend to grow at the elementary first, at the lower levels. And as that grows, those numbers naturally continue to go up to the secondary level. So as we go through this bond issue that's been put together, a lot of that will address secondary growth, capacity issues. The buildings have held up very well. The community is very, very supportive of the district and has been very gracious in allowing us to do the things that we can do. They're in good condition. There's always routine maintenance that we have to do, and some of the things that are included on this bond proposal would be in that category, such as roofing replacements and HVAC replacements. And those are things that you periodically have to do because they have a useful life. And, it's just like your roof on your home. You get this many years and then, you have to replace it. It's just the way that it works. So that's kind of what we've been doing for the last several years. But really, we've been mainly looking at the growth side of things and how we've been growing.
Okay. I kind of want to learn a little bit about how this package of two bond proposals came about. I know last year the board had a facility review committee kind of do some campus tours. They held some meetings. And earlier this year, that facility review committee recommended roughly $22 million worth of upgrades. What were some of those projects that the facility review committee felt were really important? And then what were some of the things that they felt could be put on the back burner for now?
Well, the way that process worked, that started like last year. And once the facility review committee is put together, they will go through every building on campus. They will look at every site. They go through, we do surveys. We survey out to the community, the school staff. The review committee looks at those surveys, they go through, and then they start looking at these various projects that they think that we might need to do, and we look at all of these projects that are needed, and then they are gone through and they are prioritized, and a lot of those projects have been, they're ranked, and then of course you go through and you say, well, what can we do and what can we do? What is the biggest needs and things like that? There's always much more needs than what you want to be able to do. There were some things that did not make the list, some things like parking lots and some other things in some other areas that need to be delayed a little bit because obviously you prioritize what you think is going to be the most impactful that you need to do and you need to address. And the biggest part of that is space for us. There is some maintenance items or some end-of-life items on there. And then, of course, technology, we try to look at that at every issue because that is so hard to keep up with. It just goes so fast. So that's always on there. And then transportation as well. It's kind of a rotation that you have to do because as those buses age and wear out, you have to replace them with something. But really, the biggest focus was going to be on space, on needs for growth.
Okay. Voters in the Plainview School District will actually see two bond proposals on their ballots next month. The smaller of the two proposals, $820,000, if it's approved, can only be spent on student transportation. But then the larger proposal between those two is worth just over $41 million. That's obviously where most of the spending is, at least half of that going towards some pretty major upgrades to the activity center. Looking deeper at kind of how this whole package of bond proposals was developed, how were some of those other priorities formed when trying to determine what could be done district-wide, kind of while you said, though, still working within the confines of the bonding capacity of the district?
Again,
like everything outside of the facility review committee, too.
Yes. Well, we have a 6-year continuously rotating capital improvement plan that we go through. And the board does study this every year. And basically what we do is we look at that. And we also have several things that we track. We track the ages of our roof. We track the ages of our HVAC. We track the ages of our vehicles. We track the ages of our buildings, and we continuously look at that. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, throughout the year, you have to go through every year. And as you're going through your normal maintenance procedures, you're looking for things that possibly will come up in the future on you and that you might want to address or that you need to address. A lot of it, again, is focused on space, classroom space, and also addressing some athletic deficiencies that we have as far as space goes. But then it incorporated a lot of different things as well. And that's kind of the thing about we have to do the two propositions, because Proposition 2 is strictly school buses. Mm-hmm. So, and then everything else has to be thrown into one. So you're talking about student vehicles. You're not talking about school buses. You're talking about things like driver's education cars. You're talking about, SUV kind of things like that. Mm-hmm. You're talking about technology. You're talking about roofing, HVAC, those kinds of things. So all that has to be lumped into that first category of Proposition 1. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And for a breakdown, actually, of the bond proposal, we will have a link to that over on our website, ardmoreleader.com. We're talking with Plainview Public Schools Superintendent Karl Stricker. Finally, the Plainview bond proposals I've noticed in recent history have been pretty widely supported by voters. I don't think I've seen anything in the past decade with less than about 80% voter approval. And in that time, we've seen additional class space added, the early childhood facility, safe rooms. How does the district stay engaged with, not just parents and students? That's pretty straightforward, but how is the district just staying in touch with stakeholders across the school district to make sure that these kind of projects are getting the necessary support from the community?
That's where our facility review committee comes into play. Okay. We really focus on patron committees that we can get out and talk to people and really share that need. We try to discuss things any chance and any opportunity we get. And we always invite our community. We have great community support, great community participation, so they're on our facilities all the time. We like to have them in our buildings. We like to have them at our games. We like to have them in our facilities. So we really want to try to engage our community as much as we can. They have been very supportive over the past, and they're a very wonderful community, and we really appreciate that. And they kind of see what we've got and what we're about. So we just really want to try to keep in touch with our stakeholders, and we try to reach out to people as best that we can.
And just kind of looking at some of where a lot of this is going, there's about $7.3 million kind of earmarked in this package for the high school, another almost $5.9 million for some baseball and softball athletic facilities, tons of other district-wide stuff, like you said, for technology, HVAC, roofing. What is one of the areas that this bond proposal package is looking at that you think is going to be the most important for the district, especially for the next 10 years or so?
Well, to me, the most important is going to be the space. And that starts with classroom additions. Having that classroom to address the growth that we have now and potentially some future growth would be very important to us, right? So the classroom additions are very important. And then obviously when you start to grow and your programs start to grow, then you're going to have space for other things to happen. And that's where those other projects come into play as well. Obviously, I want to see the roofs get done. I want to see HVAC maintained. We need school buses. We have to transport the kids. We want to transport the kids. So those things are always important, but the most impactful to me right now is classroom space. It's getting that needed space.
All right. Well, voters in the Plainview School District have 2 days of early voting coming up on Thursday, April 2nd and Friday, April 3rd. Polling places across Ardmore will be open on Tuesday, April 7th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Talking with us about the Plainview Public Schools bond proposal package, Superintendent Karl Stricker. Mr. Stricker, thanks so much for joining me this week. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.